It's very clear based on this conversation, based on past comments, you don't believe bail reform is the answer here. What is?
The answer is to hold people accountable for the crimes that they commit. As I said earlier, if a bad guy realizes that he's less likely to be arrested, less be convicted, less likely to be incarcerated, crime will go up. Again, they may be criminals, but they're not stupid. Hold people accountable for what they do. I mean, we got people. You mentioned the women in New York being mugged, being struck down. Often these are people who have had series of crimes, series of things that they've done. They haven't been held accountable. Just last year, my 92-year-old aunt in Cleveland, Aunt Maggie, is going to her church that she's attended for 60 years, carrying her purse and her Bible. Guy pulls out a gun, knocks her to the ground, takes her purse, takes her Bible. Fortunately, it was captured on the video camera by the church. They arrested the guy. He'd been in prison 2 times before, one time for 8 years, one time for 5 years. And within about 4 weeks or so of mugging my aunt, he had done the same thing to 2 other women, same MO, woman getting out of her car, walking to church, and he mugged her. He never should have been out on the streets.
Before we continue the conversation, is your aunt okay?
She is okay. She now walks with a cane. She can no longer drive by herself. She was driving by herself. And also, she spent a great deal of money on security on her home because he took her purse before they caught him. She had no idea whether or not he was going to use the information in the purse to come to her house and break in and do whatever. So, for all these reasons, she's very, very rattled right now, and she no longer has the same kind of sense of serenity that she did before.
As you know, former President Donald Trump is facing legal hurdles in New York City. He's been in a Manhattan courtroom over the past week. Would any of the money you raised for the PAC go to him and his legal troubles?
It would go more broadly to the whole notion of a two-tiered system of justice, which is what I believe has happened with Donald Trump, and in general with conservatives. Hunter Biden is almost got a slap on the wrist, despite the gun charges and the income tax evasion charges. I think there's a two-tier system of justice, so we're going to be calling attention to that. I don't believe Donald Trump should be facing any charges whatsoever. All he did was to describe the payments as legal expenses. Hillary and the DNC paid for the so-called Steele dossier, attributed it to legal expenses. The FEC gave them a fine. The DOJ did not criminally prosecute them. Donald Trump didn't even get a Federal Election Commission fine for the alleged payments to his alleged mistress, and he certainly wasn't prosecuted criminally. And Alvin Bragg campaigned to get Donald Trump. I believe that's a violation of your canons of ethics as a prosecutor to campaign to get somebody. And he's another example of what I consider to be the two-tiered system of justice. When he first came into the office, by the way, he declined to pursue the charges against Donald Trump. One of his assistants resigned, wrote a book calling out Alvin Bragg for shirking his responsibility, and then all of a sudden Alvin Bragg then decided to go after Donald Trump when he decided not to do it after he got into office. It's extremely unfair, and it's preventing him, of course, from being on the campaign trail.
You said you don't believe he should have been charged whatsoever. As you know, since he announced he was running for president, he's been charged 91 times with 4 indictments. Do you think he's completely innocent here with all of those charges, or do you think he's being unfairly targeted?
I think he's being unfairly targeted with all of them. Let's take the Florida one. As you know, Joe Biden had documents in more places than Donald Trump did, including, and this is very important, documents that he apparently got when he was in the Senate from a SCIF, a secured unit where you're not supposed to take anything in or take anything out. And Joe Biden had documents in his possession from when he was a senator. Clearly a violation of the Espionage Act. What did the special counsel say? Well, he's an elderly man with a poor memory, so nothing happened to him. Regarding the Georgia thing, Donald Trump is being accused of somehow trying to engineer or undo a just election. What he did was make a phone call to the Georgia Secretary of State and said, find me, I think it was 10,700 votes. He didn't say steal them. He said, make sure you've counted all the votes. That's what that term meant. And now Donald Trump is facing criminal charges for that. Absolutely, completely, totally outrageous. And regarding January 6th, The man has not been charged with insurrection, nor, by the way, have any of the other hundreds of people that participated in that riot been charged with insurrection, let alone been convicted of it. Yet Donald Trump somehow is facing charges of trying to overthrow an election because of what happened on January 6th. The man gave a speech and he said, I want you to, quote, peacefully and patriotically go and make your voices heard. And whenever I read newspapers about this or watch CNN or MSNBC, they omit the peaceful and patriotic part and they talk about him saying, go and fight like hell, which is just standard political rhetoric. So I think that one is unfair as well. I think all of them are unfair and would not be brought if Donald Trump were not the presumptive nominee of the Republican Party for 2024.